Hello everyone. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure to be connecting with all of you on this Naturonomics Forum. And I want to at the outset thank Ranjit Bartakur for inviting me and compliment him and the Balipara Foundation for the wonderful work that they are doing to preserve the Eastern Himalayan region ecologically. In the last 9 months or so, most of us have been confined to operate from home or wherever we felt safe. During this period, we all have gone about doing our business and personal activities within a constrained framework. After all, the business is all about growing, business is all about being efficient, business is all about being innovative within the constraints of the laws of the land in which we operate and doing the right things to the people and the communities that we serve. During this period of lockdown, I came across a few things. First and foremost, the place where I live. I do have a garden, I do have some greenery, no doubt. But what is new is that I have seen so many new birds in our garden that I never saw before. We had new neighbors in peacocks and parrots coming through our garden, and we had more rains than usual. For records, I live in Bangalore, pretty much within the city limits. I and my family derived so much pleasure looking at these changes, which we did not see in the last several years. As we turned online during the lockdown period, I came across a request to support the Sundarbans blood honey. It aroused my curiosity, and what I learned is that the honey collectors of the region are often subject to tiger attacks, crocodile snatches, and snake bites that invariably ends their lives, and there are several widows who do not know how to proceed with their livelihood. The forest department there encouraged the people of Sundarbans to start apiary projects that is resulting in safe collection of purest of pure honey, of course without any blood. The third one is that of Mr. Ragesh Kaisham and how he cultivated lemongrass and tea to nurture the wealth of Manipur's rich soil and channelize it towards bringing prosperity and development to the region. All these stories have all been very inspiring, and it struck me that these have resulted in both economic and ecological development as being two sides of the same coin. Likewise, mangrove forest is a multi-purpose ecosystem, and ecologists' understanding of this have shown they are very sensitive to change and require sustainable management to preserve their biodiversity and innumerable other benefits, including they acting as a tsunami barrier. As countries industrialized, initially people were focused on economic development rather than the consequent environmental impacts. However, there is a greater realization that the essential ingredients and resources for production, the so-called economic activity, is given by the environment, which also subsumes the waste and emissions out of that economic activity. Not tending to these factors would result in poor environmental quality that in turn will affect the economic well-being. It has been so rightly said by Gaylord Nelson that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. At Tata Consultancy Services, we have embraced this paradigm. TCS and the Tata Group are committed to do things the right way, by which we will leave this planet better than what our ancestors gave it to us. Several projects and ongoing commitments related to land, air and water are on the anvil for a productive and sustained relationship with the biosphere. The ecology economy is a subject of much debate, and I would encourage the Eastern Himalayans Naturonomics Forum to discuss the same and provide answers both quantitatively and qualitatively. To do this, it is imperative that the technology is used and toolkits are deployed so that undisputed data can emerge on why ecology matters. Thank you, and let us be meaningful to people unconditionally.
Hello everyone, I'm Sanjiv, Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Unilever. It is wonderful to be participating in such an important initiative. Thank you, Balipara Foundation, for bringing the ancient ecology economy paradigm to the forefront. through your work and helping build resilient and sustainable relationships between business, society, and nature. Forests provide livelihood, essentials of life, and well being for rural population and millions around the world. Around 44 trillion of economic value generation, which is nearly half the world's GDP, is moderately or highly dependent on nature. However, consumption and runaway exploitation of natural resources has spurred the ecological crisis we face today. The eastern Himalayas sustain a diverse array of wildlife, including many rare species of fauna and flora. The region faces a fragile and unpredictable future as it warms faster than the rest of the world. About 70% of the people in the region are farmers, of which 80% are smallholders, who are extremely exposed to the risk of climate change, thereby affecting agriculture production. Several studies have pointed out that the recent pandemic can be linked to climate change and loss of biodiversity that have over the years spurred a rise in zoonotic diseases, infections that come from animals. According to environmentalists, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Going forward, 75% of all emerging infectious diseases is likely to come from wildlife. The recently released report of Red Cross Society says that the global warming poses a greater threat than COVID-19. Hence, it is extremely important now more than ever that while we address the social and economic challenges posed by COVID-19, we do not lose focus on addressing climate change. We should remember that for COVID-19, we will get a vaccine, but for climate change, there isn't a vaccine. Climate change is the biggest issue that we face today. Its impacts are catastrophic, such as floods, famines, extreme temperature, and loss of biodiversity. All stakeholders need to play a role. Collaboration among stakeholders is key to fighting this issue. Businesses need to rethink how they can utilize natural resources and reduce the carbon footprint to help build a greener future. The businesses need to own the responsibility for use of natural resources in not just their operations but across the value chain. Globally, Unilever has taken bold commitments that will help improve the health of the planet. The commitments include net zero emission from all our products by 2039. This is 11 years ahead of the Paris Agreement deadline. We are challenging ourselves to even higher standards to protect high carbon ecosystems like forests, peatlands, and tropical rainforests. And we will have a deforestation-free supply chain by 2023. We have also talked about empowering a new generation of farmers and smallholders to protect and regenerate the environment through a new regenerative agriculture code for all our supplies, which build on existing sustainable agriculture code. Implementing water stewardship programs in 100 water-stressed locations, and our brands will collectively invest over €1 billion in a new climate and nature fund, which will be used over the next 10 years to take meaningful and decisive actions. We've also announced a partnership with the Water Resources Group, hosted by the World Bank, to support the development and capacity building for managing water resources issues in key countries, including our own country, India. Managing plastic waste. Last year, Unilever announced a plan to tackle the most visible environmental issue in the consumer goods industry, plastic packaging. We have set bold targets globally that include halving our use of virgin plastics and helping to collect and process more plastic packaging than we sell. These commitments on plastic are over and above our commitments made in 2018 to make 100% of the plastic packaging reusable, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. Further, 25% of all plastic we use is expected to come from recycled resources by 2025. Very recently, we also announced a Clean Future commitment, under which the company will invest over €1 billion to eliminate fossil fuel-based molecules for the formulations across the range of cleaning products by 2030. Our contributions in India, we have been focusing as a business that reaches 9 out of 10 Indian households. We believe we can play a significant role in addressing the challenge. At Hindustan Unilever, we have been taking actions to help improve the health of the planet and make a positive difference to the society. We've reduced our carbon emissions in manufacturing by 85% per ton of production since 2008. We have increased our share of renewable energy in manufacturing to 70% in 2019. The water usage in our manufacturing has reduced by 58% since 2008. The total waste generated in our manufacturing has been reduced by nearly two-thirds compared to 2008. And most of agriculture raw materials are now sourced from sustainable sources. One of the most significant initiatives faced by our country is that of water. A Niti Aayog report suggests that severe water scarcity could eventually lead to a 6% loss in the country's GDP. We set up a foundation, Hindustan Unilever Foundation, to support scalable solutions that can help address India's water challenge. We had established the Water for Public Good program with the belief that water, like air, is a common shared resource and must be managed by communities. To date, our programs working with our partners have created a cumulative potential of 1.2 trillion liters of water, a quantum equivalent to the drinking water needs of all adults in the country for a whole year. Let me now conclude. I would like to reiterate that addressing climate change needs to be a collaborative effort. While businesses will have to reimagine themselves, relevant government interventions will help enhance resilience, create jobs, and improve well-being in rural communities, thus leading to overall economic growth. Creating awareness among civic societies and adoption of sustainable practices will play a pivotal role. The interconnected nature of the problem makes it necessary for multiple stakeholders to come together. All of us need all of us, not some of us. The Balipara Foundation is bringing together stakeholders together through the global forum. I wish them all success in their endeavor towards creating a better tomorrow. After all, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Let us join hands to leave behind an ecologically balanced planet. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Paul Polman, and it's wonderful to be part of such an important event. Thank you, Ranjit and the Balipara Foundation, for your leadership in promoting business models that work in harmony with nature and putting people and their livelihoods at the center of your work. We greatly appreciate everything that you're doing, particularly your work in supporting the local communities in the Eastern Himalayas to be stewards of their own natural assets. A region that is still home to 12,000 species of plants, animals, and birds, and with new ones discovered every year. The world is facing an unprecedented crisis of rising temperatures, supercyclones, raging wildfires, global pandemics, and vicious floods. In the eastern Himalayas specifically, rising temperatures in the mountains have caused glaciers to melt, creating a water crisis and adding further stresses to the already politically tense region. We are on the verge of a global collapse that risks the life and livelihood of billions, driven by overconsumption and runaway exploitation of natural resources to feed the unlimited economic growth. And the COVID crisis has shown us even more that nature, health, inequality, and the economy are all interrelated, and that people are at the very center of this. It is clear more than ever that we cannot have healthy people on an unhealthy planet. Natural disasters linked to ecosystem degradation and climate change are costing us well over $300 billion a year, whilst an estimated 40 to 60% of small businesses will never reopen after such disastrous events. Healthy ecosystem and rich biodiversity are critical for a prosperous global economy. An estimated 44 trillion of the global GDP depends on healthy ecosystems. Without these ecosystem services and their natural capital values, we will lose half of the global economy that we have today. Before COVID, the need to create more resilient economies and societies was clear. Now it's inescapable. The natural resources and ecosystems that power our businesses and underpin economies and communities are under huge strain. We need to strengthen the resilience of these interconnected systems: nature, people, climate, health, food, finance, and yes, the economy. We need to rethink how we use natural capital. And I commend the Balipara Foundation for looking at these new models for growth that recognize the link between nature and the economy. And I'm hopeful that we are moving in the right direction. Forward thinking businesses are already making commitments and taking firm actions. We've seen 530 businesses that have already made commitments to help reverse nature loss. My former company Unilever launched a 1 billion climate and nature fund and committed to a deforestation free supply chain by 2023. Danone has changed its entire business model and became the first listed company to adopt the French legal framework Entreprise à Mission. But we urgently need to scale and speed up efforts to mitigate climate change, promote sustainable growth, and halt the decline of biodiversity. But business cannot address this global crisis on their own. We need ambitious leadership from governments as well. In September, I applaud the more than 77 heads of state who signed the Leaders' Pledge for Nature, pledging to reverse biodiversity loss by 2030. But these signals need to be translated into meaningful action and commitments. We also need the Convention of Biological Diversity to deliver an ambitious post-2020 global biodiversity framework that is both implementable and legally binding. The opportunity is now. Together we must protect, restore, and sustainably use our natural resources for the well-being of humans and a prosperous planet. And the Eastern Himalayas, with its vast reserve of natural wealth, are well positioned to lead this movement, to put nature back in economics. I certainly hope that you have a great forum. I thank you for the opportunity, and above all, be safe. Thank you very much.
Dear friends, my warm greetings to you on the 8th edition of the Eastern Himalayan Naturonomics Forum. This is a flagship event of the Balipara Foundation, which brings a community-based approach to conservation and supports the Eastern Himalayan communities to be stewards of nature's assets through enhancing the social and economic mobility. I believe that the theme for the forum, Ecology Economy, puts the spotlight on the role of nature in providing the essential natural resources that nurture life on Earth. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the climate that makes our planet habitable all come from nature. We also recognize that these are exceptional times in which nature is sending us a message. To care for ourselves, we must care for nature. Now, the warming of the global climate system is a perturbing trend, and many of the observed changes are unprecedented. The atmosphere and the oceans have warmed, the amounts of snow and ice have diminished, sea levels have risen, and the concentration of greenhouse gases has increased. The IMF projects India to be among the fastest growing major economies in the coming years in a world that has been plunged into a recession by the coronavirus pandemic. Now, economic growth is essential to lift millions of citizens out of poverty, malnutrition, and illiteracy. However, one of the challenges to sustaining this rapid economic growth is the impending threat from climate change. With an economy which is closely tied to its natural resources base and climate change sensitive sectors such as agriculture, water, and forestry, India may face a major threat because of the projected changes in climate. And therefore, to be a true world leader, India will need to focus on both being an economic powerhouse and a global environmental leader. I believe that the case for corporate India's action on climate change is well understood. We have the responsibility to identify opportunities and create sustainable value as the country makes a transition to a low carbon and sustainable economy. Indian companies have acknowledged the role of government, investors, and customers as the primary drivers of climate change opportunities and investments. While corporate India has responded with many emission reduction initiatives, a lot more needs to be done to successfully confront the challenges of climate change in the years to come. Corporates will also need a more robust and enabling regulatory environment to accelerate the transition to a low carbon economy in 2021. At Tata Consumer Products, our sustainability strategy stands for better living, which is for better nutrition, for thriving communities, and a better planet. The 96 trillion investor assets backed CDP has recognized Tata Consumer Products as one of the 6 companies in India rated as climate change rising stars on the CDP India 2019 A list. Our climate change strategy reallocates resources from high carbon activities to low carbon ones such as energy efficiency, emissions reduction, renewable energy, and recycling. The Eastern Himalayan region, with its rich ecological civilization, ethnicities, languages, and biocultural diversity, has the potential to bring a paradigm shift in the developmental paradigm where ecology is economy. At Tata Consumer Products, the Eastern Himalayan region is an important source of our tea procurement. We have a focus on improving the lives of tea communities in the states of Assam and West Bengal in the region. Our sustainable sourcing strategy promotes sustainable agricultural practices in our supply chain. As a founding member of the Trust Tea program, we have the opportunity to positively impact the lives of tea communities by disseminating sustainable agricultural practices and providing better working environments, market access, and better prices for tea growers. Through Project Jalodhari, we support water, sanitation, and hygiene programs for the tea communities in Assam in partnership with Tata Trust and the Tata Water Mission. The UNICEF ETP Improving Lives program aims to tackle the systemic issues and behavioral changes around health, nutrition, and education affecting women and children in over 200 tea estates of Assam, which is over 1/4 of the formal tea estates in the region. At Tata Consumer Products, we continue to evangelize sustainability through our value systems, corporate culture, and entrepreneurial spirit. I would also like to call upon all business leaders to discover, inspire, partner, and grow in the changing business environment where ecology is economy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My pranams to Shri Ranjit Bhattakur and Shri Saurav Malhotra of the Balipara Foundation. Their inspiring work to date has created a community that is focused on sustainable value creation. This impact on the community will be felt for decades, and this is a phenomenal base to grow from. Their proprietary concept of naturenomics is an effective way of solving community issues in a dignified manner. The first question, why and how ecology should be at the center stage and is the foundation of economic development. In my view, Mother Nature is currently holding 7.5 billion people. By 2035, we will be at 9 billion. 6 basic human needs: energy, food, water, infrastructure, healthcare, and education. With such numbers, food, water, and infrastructure are critical. Therefore, we need to ensure that harmony in nature and the understanding of how to commercialize natural products, which are in demand, is essential. There is a global shift towards ESG, and one needs to ensure that each business has a clear angle and clear calibration of their carbon footprint, and make sure that whatever solutions they have are going to be economically viable and they can share them. The second question is, how do we break from traditional industrialization and forge a new path for forward-looking environmental policy and action? And what are the lessons to be learned from past downturns? Very clearly, business leaders working together, educating, and working with policymakers ensure transparency. And this ensures that every leader should be aligned in their thought, words, and actions. Collaboration is key and something that we should be doing today, and that is something very prevalent today. all business leaders and communities working together to ensure a successful outcome. In terms of the last question, how can we catalyze a revolution for new growth by integrating people, economy, and ecology at a policy, investment, and macro level? In my view, there's no need for a revolution. It's a natural process of evolution. We need to ensure that Mother Earth will continue to give, so we need to behave and focus on efficient supply chains and education so that we continue to be value accretive. Thank you very, very much for allowing me to be part of this. Thank you.